back. The time is now.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to NUFC Talk TV. Sorry, we're a little bit late. We were having some technical issues at the back, and the mighty Win, who was with us, has disappeared, unfortunately. So tonight's panel will be, obviously, Mighty Win will join us very soon, I hope. Andy Bell, and we've got Dr. Omar. Is it Abu Isa? Doctor, can you hear me? You're muted, Boo.
Yes, correct. Hi, George.
Thank you. Yeah,
Can you
and
hear
we've
me?
got obviously, we're good. And we've got Big Yinks also in the building. Got an interesting show for you tonight. We're going to look at more sports psychology and how it affects professionals within the game. But before we get into all that, I suppose we better do the natural job of doing the housework. Welcome to everybody that's watching across all of the platforms. Thanks to everybody working in the background, doing an amazing job. Don't forget to hit the like button for us too if you enjoy the show. It really helps us get further as a channel to other supporters, and your support over the last few weeks has been outstanding. So please, please, please continue to do that. Subscribe, it's totally free. Hit the bell for future content. We do 7 days a week, sometimes 2 shows a day. So it's always live, very few are recorded. So if you hit the bell, you'll get a 30-minute notification that we're going live. If you want to support us, you can also become a member. It's a small monthly fee. You can choose from different levels. And once you're on board with that membership, if you want to, you can come on board then to our predictions league. And it's a little bit of a in-house bit of fun, where if you predict the results of Newcastle's games throughout the season, you finish in the top 6, you're going to win it. Well, you do win a prize. If it gets to you, just ask Sean, because his has gone missing somewhere. But we are giving him another one. If you've got a question for any of the panelists tonight, please put a Q in front of the question just so we can highlight it. But it ain't guaranteed to be mentioned, because I would imagine with tonight's show being a bit more specialised, we are going to talk about the Sesko issue as well. If you want to guarantee it, then use the $sign. Throw us the super chat, and that will guarantee that message read out. And if you become a member during the show, and if you want to gift memberships, as we always do, a lot of our beautiful members always throw gifts out there. We will highlight you as we go along the show. And I noticed right at the start of the show, Geordie Revolution. Welcome on board, Geordie. Again, he's been with us for a while. Thanks for becoming a member, my friend. Very kind of you. So I hope you, well, I just hope you enjoy it and you continue your membership. So I suppose everybody knows Andy. Everybody knows Big Yinks, because we broke Big Yinks' virginity the other night. But nobody's actually known Dr. Omar, a sports psychologist. So please introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Chris, the mighty Win. Just a correction, so I'm a sports psychiatrist. So for those of you who don't know, the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist, psychiatrists are doctors. So so it's okay. So I went to Oxford Medical School. I studied medicine in Oxford. And then I'm from Newcastle, not that you can tell from my accent. I went to the Royal Grammar School in Jasmine. And then after studying medicine, I specialized in psychiatry in Manchester. And so I'm currently a sports and addiction psychiatrist. I lived in Qatar for 8 years, and currently I'm in Dubai. I also grew up in Saudi, so I have a unique insight into kind of the mindset of, people from the Gulf in terms of business. So PIF, that kind of thing. So I've done a International Olympics Committee diploma on mental health and elite sports. So this is actually quite a new niche area, looking at elite sports men and women and their mental health, mental well-being, and how we can support them. So a lot of elite football teams, sports teams now do have psychiatrists on board to help, the mental side of things.
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget we're only human, aren't we? And we often see ourselves as robots. And like obviously they expect the performance levels never to dip. But obviously there's certain things within the game that warrant the dips. And it is literally the nature of the beast. So before we get into the Isak scenario, I suppose what we better just trim over. Again, it seems Groundhog Day has appeared once again with Sesko. Thank you so much again. Big Tank 9401. Sesko should stay at Leipzig for one more year. Well, you could understand why the likes of Arsenal backed away from this never-ending saga. It seems to be. He seems to listen. I've always said it seems to me as though we're in a number of houses to buy within the chain, if you like, and everybody's looking for a way out. And if one fails, if one domino effect fails, then unfortunately the rest is going to go. And I think that's where Isak finds himself now. So obviously, everybody was talking on last night's show that Sesko had agreed. Everything was hunky-dory. Somebody had put in there that there was a plane en route from Germany to Newcastle. Again, somebody said that Sesko has already got his medical booked and arranged. So again, there's lots of clickbait. There's lots of stories out there. The frustrating thing for me, this is what maybe you guys can put some clarity on it. The main media streams, they are obviously driving the force in and amongst the big clubs and leaving poor old Newcastle out on the mire, if you like, because again, I don't know whether you guys have seen it up on Sky Sports today. There was a list of strikers that have been sold this season, and you got Sesko in number 2, and with that, he's from Leipzig to Manchester United. No mention of Newcastle, even though it has been agreed, the price and everything else. So before I come to Andy and get your opinions on exactly what the doctor was saying, a lot of this is media driven. And unfortunately, we aren't included in a lot of this speculation anymore. Well, ever been included in any of the speculation when it comes to the bigger sides, if that's what you class Manchester United as these days. So what's your thoughts on the whole saga now, Andy? And what's your feeling about the Sesko business?
I think prior planning would have possibly stopped us from being in the situation. That's the first thing. What the annoying thing for me is we've known Manchester United being interested in this player. When was the original bid placed? Was it last Tuesday, nearly a week ago?
Yeah.
So we knew that they were interested. If the bid wasn't accepted at that point, look, I get that you're going to give them time to stew, but all you're doing is giving Man United an opportunity to have a chat, get time to prepare for their bid. We all know we're not daft. We both know that if Leipzig are happy with the bid Man United's putting in, and ours might be more money financially for them, there is a risk that he's a young player. He's probably never heard of Newcastle have the recent success. He's really probably took no notice of it. So ultimately, the media are driven for Man United as well. We know this. Like you said, like you've already alluded to, they're putting out that the deal's already done when ultimately they haven't had a bid accepted yet. I just think that we've been caught sleeping, and that is the frustrating thing. I'm guessing 90% of people sitting watching this and sitting watching the saga are sitting there going, have we not learned from the other 6 errors that we've made in the window? Look, I don't think it's dead and buried, the deal. I really do think if Sesko sits down and looks at it for footballing reasons, then why not pick Newcastle? Champions League football there. There's a World Cup coming up. I'm not sure whether Serbia have qualified for the World Cup, but if they have, I think there might be an England's group, actually. It's going to be something that's going to push him. I see Man United. Look, they've made massive changes, but I really don't see for footballing reasons why you would go to Manchester United. And like I said, the biggest annoyance for me is for the last 4 or 5 weeks, all we've heard is Isak. Now we're kind of taking my attention away from Isak and focusing everything on Sesko, and really, ultimately, if Sesko doesn't come, we're going to have to go back to the Isak problem. So I hope that's been still dealt with in the background.
Right then, just before I come to you, Dr. Omar, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to the Irish Assassin. Can't believe RB, which is Leipzig, would take less money, especially reading Sesko at agreed terms. RB may have burnt a bridge with NUFC if they sell for less to Man U. And I think that is the other thing, isn't it? When we were the only bidders, they come back to us and say, you know, we want you to bid a little bit more. And this is what sticks in my throat, right? So I think, and again, reading a lot of material between the lines, it sounds very much as Manchester United have had feeds from RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig obviously are very interested in Højlund, and have been pushing for this deal where it's player loan. Højlund doesn't want to go out of England; he wants to stay. Manchester United paid 80 million for Højlund. They know it was never going to be a player swap deal because you don't get them anymore. We heard that from Dave yesterday. Very few and far between. And it seems really uncanny that we are in a situation now where, even though we've put the higher bid, we're going to get gazumped once again. And like you said, Andy, you know, when you sit down as a player and you're looking at it as a footballing scenario, what can Newcastle offer them apart from a project? Because at the end of the day, we have very little history. We've never really won anything apart from a Carabao Cup in the last umpteen years. So seriously, when you actually write everything down on paper, Manchester United are rebuilding. Newcastle maybe are in front of them on their rebuild and on their project. So what you've got is one club with a lot of history, one club with, some history, but nothing massive, but both clubs actually selling the project. So what he has to decide as a player, if it is this player that's making the arrangements now, which way or who has sold the project better and who is on the trajectory more. You know, for me, I've always said, I don't think Sesko, or what's holding Sesko back, there could be two things. One, it's a gentleman's handshake with RB to say, wait for me to get a striker on board, or at least one lined up before you go. I know that there's a Pender now potentially going to be going as well, or there's somebody asking and making inquiries about a Pender. They have signed a striker, but by all accounts, he's not going to hit the ground running. So that to me is that gentleman's agreement that Leipzig had with Sesko. And the other thing is, I ain't coming unless Isak's gone, because I ain't going to fight for my place.
Yeah.
So there's two ways of looking at this. Dr. Omar, your views on this, please.
Thank you, Gary. I think there's a lot of things that I can reflect on. One of the things I would say is that the vacuum of leadership is probably reflective of the fact that we were going in for these elite players. And, you know, these elite players, if you look at their developmental trajectory, so from a very young age, they're very identified as gifted. And, you know, they're plugged into like structures like academies, and they're used to having boundaries and structures and hierarchies. And I believe that one of the reasons that we've been unsuccessful in multiple bids is because even as fans, we don't know who is the negotiating team, who is the person calling the shots. So if we don't know as fans, then if you're approaching elite players and you have to consider this, you know, he's a young guy and it's a big decision for him. And then I don't know who's doing the negotiating, who's actually selling the club. And if you know, so this is an issue, and I think this has come across with a lot of the failed bids because it's taking too long. We don't know who's actually, you know, in the leadership position, and that does affect the psychology and the mental kind of effect on elite players. They want to know what is the leadership structure, and I think that's patently obvious that we don't know. And this vacuum, and I'm really surprised, to be honest, because like I mentioned, like if you look at Saudis or Qataris, they're very clever and intelligent and, you know, business people. So I don't know what's going on with kind of Yasser and the PIF kind of leadership, whether they've just kind of left people to run the show and they've taken their eye off the ball because they've got so many projects going on. They're not going to be, you know, hands-on on every single project. It's a multi-billion dollar kind of group, and I think that's a big issue for them.
I agree. I think the biggest problem these guys have is the fact that they are they have got the fingers in lots of pies. but they've never really, and this is something, you know, where with me and Win have often disagreed, if you like, because we've got to this situation where we are, and I like to say, you know, we are a non-blame environment, but a finger-pointing attitude, because somebody always has to take the blame. And you know, anybody speaks out about it, you get labelled with a certain quote to say that you don't agree with what's being said. And you know, I've made a comment because of the facts that I've managed to gain about how it's being led, and it's not being led by PIF, because PIF have employed people below them to get involved in all the arrangements and all the agreements that need to be agreed. All these guys need to do is pick up a phone and agree the money that's required. And we saw that obviously when we had the Amazon thing with Amanda Staveley doing exactly that. And you know, I often think, you know, when I was trying to explain to Win that sometimes PIF are backing us. But the unfortunate thing is, PIF aren't going to be the forefront, the face of Newcastle, because they have so much more in the, you know, so many more pokers in the fire. Big Yinks.
Yep, the one and only.
Come on, man. Give us your views, dude.
Okay, cool. I think take a little bit from everyone. Essentially, at the end of the day, I think what we're seeing is the consequences that we to a degree Eddie Howe FC. I'm not sorry.
Your mic's lagging a bit, buddy.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. It's just sometimes when you're talking, it just goes in and out. So just try and.
Okay. Is this
Go
better?
on. Yeah. You're good. You're good. You're good. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Because obviously you've taken your mic,
Can't hear
your
me.
headphones out. Yeah, keep your headphones in, dude. That's it. That's it. Good.
Hello?
That's it. You're good. You're good. Carry on. Oh, he's gone now. Can you, oh, okay.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Yinks.
I'll come in and out.
Okay, buddy. He's having some issues. Again, this is where it's been, unfortunately, at the start. Just so everybody can see what I was leading to while we're waiting for Big Yinks to get in. As you can see here, this was the thing that was put up by Sky. Apologies, it is a little bit small. I'll try and just increase it a little without going too mad. I think, unfortunately, it goes a little bit awry when I do that. But as you can see, literally on the second one down, it does say Sesko being the second most expensive striker bought so far, and the only team that's registering on there is Manchester United. Even though, according to everybody that you speak to out in social media land, all the big named boys have said he's not agreed to go to Manchester United. And this is my point. You know, at the end of the day, when we talk about the psychological effect it has on players, which is what I think, you know, is a good thing that to have you on board, Dr. Omar. It's the actual psychological effects it has on fans. Because in actual fact, you know, all we have had the entire window so far is neglect, is rejection. And it just seems as if we are, you know, knocking another nail within the coffin. And on top of the situation with Isak, it just leaves a really bitter taste in your mouth, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lack of clear communication. So when there's a communication gap, when there's a vacuum, there's agendas. The media clearly has an agenda against Newcastle. That's very obvious. And even like touching on the kind of, like you mentioned, the Sesko issue. Obviously, these players are on social media. They're hearing, they're listening to everything. And because there's a communication gap, I mean, nobody from the club is actually saying anything except Eddie Howe has made a few statements that they're trying to recruit players, but there's no clear lines of communication. Okay, we have this recruitment team. Even Man United have some communication that Omar Barada's come out and said, you know, what their vision is, what their strategy is. They will not bid for a player unless that player, you know, states that they want to join the club. So these are very important for these elite level players and the team around them. If you think about, for example, Sesko, like Sesko is going to be thinking the same as us, like, you know, who's actually in charge in Newcastle? Yeah, he's having negotiations with certain representatives, but we don't know as fans what's going on. And that really causes frustration and psychologically like this is very stressing because you just get rejection after rejection. But we don't know like why are players not coming? Is it because of the lack of wages? Is it because the pitch is not good? Or so I think this is the issue. And touching on Isak as well, yes, his conduct's been not great, but he's not come out and said that he wants to leave. These are assumptions that the media is promoting, and obviously Liverpool fans are kind of like running with it. And us as Newcastle fans, we're just kind of taking everything at face value. We're not actually taking a step back and reflecting, like, is this actually true? What's being said? I think probably 90% of what's being said is rubbish, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Yiggs, can you hear us, dude? We can't hear you now.
Gary, I don't know about you, mate, but
Hold on, can you hear me now?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think I know why. Just so my prognosis pertaining to our situation at hand is that I'm just going to be quite quickly, is that I personally think we become to a degree Eddie Howe FC, whereby if we go based upon what people, sorry.
It's all right. It's Dom who's talking to us in the background. Carry on,
So
Yinks. Don't worry.
if we go based upon what we've previously seen in terms of Eddie Howe's individuals that got Paul Mitchell out, then essentially this void was actually created by him. Again, I'm not trying to say Paul Mitchell was a saint or he needs to go or if he needs to stay, but the problem is that we keep on going for players who, to a degree, are too big for us. They find other projects enticing. Not to say we're not good enough or better than these teams, i.e. Man United, but we just are not as big as these particular clubs. So essentially, it goes down and boils down to recruitment. We've had three seasons or three transfer windows where we didn't do any business at all, and yet we don't have a large portfolio of players that we can actually get. So I'm very, very wary of, okay, cool, what's really going on behind the scenes? And I think that's being played out to the fans because essentially there's a multitude of things that could have been hidden. It shows that Newcastle do have a very, very bad PA team, and it's now being shown to our faces. So yeah, that's my prognosis that we've given too much control to Eddie Howe, and I'd love to ask the doctor, what type of mentality would Eddie Howe be in at this moment of time if he's taking or if he's in control of a multitude of different things that he wasn't or that I presume chose to, or jobs that he has now chosen to take control of because we don't have a DOF or chairman.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the fact that you're using prognosis. That's nice. You're speaking as a doctor. Hi, Win. Nice to see you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yay!
Hallelujah!
The man's back.
I think just to answer you, Yinks, I agree with you. There's like something called organizational psychology. So if you have a lack of leadership and hierarchy within any organization, whether that's multinational companies, whether that's football clubs, that then filters down into a lot of challenges and problems. And I think there are a lot of egos and kind of narcissism at play. So, okay, Eddie Howe's done an amazing job, but you have to be well defined in your area, right? So, like for example, as a psychiatrist, I have a certain role to fulfill, and then I have a team, a multidisciplinary team. So we have nurses that do specific role, and you can't blur the lines, right? You can't do everything. And I think for whatever reason, Eddie Howe has got a lot of power, and there's probably some resentment around the nepotism. You know, his his nephew's kind of like taking a leading role, and that does filter down into large organizations. You know, like for example, even if you're in any company, if you have like the boss and his like relative has a senior leadership position, that can cause resentment amongst other staff members. So I think that also possibly has something to do with what's going on.
Good question for Dr. Omar, if I could quickly. Going back onto that. So let's say Sesko's sitting there and he's got a big decision to make. Let's say his decision has not been made. His team should be literally going over the pros and the cons for both sides. If I'm on his side and I'm looking in saying, look, I need to give you the best advice. Recent past would tell you that Man United signing big players has not worked well. So would that be going to be the psyche of something fundamentally is wrong at the club? Therefore, they're not able to take these big players and get the best out of them. I mean, there's 100 examples in the last 6-7 years Hoyland 100 million euros, Casemiro 80 million euros, Garnacho. The list goes on, doesn't it? So if I'm on the Newcastle side of this, I'd be pointing this out and saying, hang on a second, all recent recruitment surely he's going to tap into their positive psyche and say, look at Dan Burn, he was arguably going to be playing in the Championship if he didn't come to Newcastle in the future. He's now an England international. You're then looking at Bruno. Bruno hadn't been a full Brazilian international regularly until he came to us. Joe Linton had never been in the squad. Isak, obviously, he's went up in levels. Gordon hadn't been in international. So for me, look, he's a young player development. What club recently is the best fit? Now, recent history would tell me that it's us. Yes, okay, Man United's got the pull because they're Man United. But I think obviously they're gonna have people like yourself on the buy side. They're gonna have psychiatrists. They're gonna have physios. They're gonna have all sorts of set them up when they move there. Surely these people are saying to you, do you really want to? Do you think you're going to break that mold?
It's a great point, Andy. I think there's a lot of factors. So obviously the thing is, it's a legacy club, right? Man United. So he's what, 22. So he's been kind of like seen like, you know, the highs that United have achieved. And so psychologically, as for young players, they do look at the legacy of clubs like, you know, Liverpool, like Manchester United, even though the current state isn't great. So that already is in the background, right? And then it comes down to, again, I'm saying communication. So who from the Newcastle hierarchy is actually sitting down and pitching the club, and you know what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are, and how we can help him develop and achieve the potential, and giving, you know, case examples. And then obviously conversely talking about the failures of United. So this is the thing, I don't know, who is anybody actually doing that, or are they just talking about money and you know, kind of, and I suspect that the Newcastle doesn't have like a really strong, robust recruitment team that, exactly what you've said, can lay out a development pathway for Sesko. And I believe if they did, then he would have signed, definitely. Obviously, money comes down to, I don't know how much wages United are offering compared to Newcastle.
I did see a figure quoted, but again, it's all speculation until obviously somebody from a lot higher than myself can produce the facts. But it was very similar, and I think, you know, you can look at it from two sides of the fence, if you like, because, you know, by all accounts, and again, you go into United paying 5 million less, 5 million euros less than Newcastle were. Before I go any further, I want to say a couple of things. Lots of great in the chat. Thank you so much. But please, anybody's welcome in this channel. But if you are going to get a little bit personal, political, religious, or anything like that, you will be called from the channel. We want to, you know, it's an open platform and we believe in what you guys say, but please keep it friendly in the chat. Going back to what I was saying, I believe the way it works is when you're pushing the 10 million mark, and I think that is the thing for me. So the 80 million plus 10 of Newcastle. So the plus 10 could have been a hard achievement to actually get that extra 10 million for Leipzig, for the player to reach targets, where United, even though it's less money, Manchester United could have given them an 85 million, a 75 million plus 10, where it's more achievable targets to reach. So because we'll never know what those add-ons are for that extra bonus, if you like, that extra 10 million, Leipzig may say, well, even though Newcastle have offered us 5 million more, we may never see that 10 million because of the add-on agreement that they've offered. It may not be achievable. So there's always different ways.
The amount was higher for us, though. Sorry to interrupt you, Gary, but
No, go on, mate.
The guaranteed amount that we've offered up front is still more than the guaranteed amount from Man United. So even though our add-ons is higher, our guaranteed up front figure, which I think was 70 something, is guaranteed.
Yeah, you're absolutely bang on. But what I'm saying is, if their 10 million add-ons is more achievable than our 10 million, then surely that's just 5 million more to them.
Well, by all accounts, we've offered £78 million and they haven't offered that yet. But can we go back to what you opened the show with, Gary?
Go for it.
I've sat here and I've bit me tongue.
Go for it, Win.
Because what you
Hold on,
said...
let me just say this. Romerick, players have massive egos. They want to be the player that brings United back to glory. There you go. I mean, they've obviously sold the project the same as Newcastle have, and obviously he believes that Man U have got a better chance of getting there.
They've sold the project better than Newcastle, obviously.
But at the start, Gary, you said that we've turned into a blame civilization and a finger pointing.
I says a non-blame culture with a finger pointing attitude.
Exactly. That's the point. And straight away, Big Inks comes on and says, it's Eddie Howe's fault.
It's exactly that.
Eddie Howe's fault.
I said, I'm not Eddie Howe out, but we become Eddie Howe FC.
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying is Eddie Howe is not a negotiator. That's not what he does for a living. He is a football coach. That does not alter the fact that he should still be the guy to decide which players are going to come into his first team squad.
You're right in saying that. When I'm not trying to argue.
And when he's identified those players, the fact that PIF do not currently have in place, and nobody knows who took the phone call from Liverpool offering £110 million. Nobody knows. Who's decided that we've offered €90 million to Leipzig for Sesko? Again, nobody knows. It's all pure supposition on behalf of everybody in social media that's all over it on top of it now.
Yeah, so here we go. This is Fabrizio Romano 9 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago. Understand Manchester United feeling from earlier today is even stronger tonight. The club believes Benjamin Sesko only wants to join Manchester United now, even though 12 hours ago he only wanted to come to Newcastle. And this is the same
Fabrizio Romano who was saying 12 hours ago that he was joining Newcastle United.
Absolutely. So Manchester United forward.
Can I say something quickly? When I do believe you're right. But I'm just going to take it back to the Mark Gay deal. From what I heard, based upon what I read, Paul Mitchell said this as well. Eddie Howe said this is Gay or no one. We went in for Gay. We put all our effort into Gay to a point where we decided nobody. This is the same.
No, it was Gay for centre half.
Yes, but okay, cool. Skye as the centre half to sign. That was the only player we're looking to sign. So again, this is the same. My only reason, again, I'm not Eddie Howe out first and foremost. I think he's done a magnificent job, and it'll be fair. I'm not trying to push him out, but there is a sort of sense of narcissism with him as well, because I'm going based off the fact what you said, Win, and I heard you say this, that it was Eddie Howe who walked into Yassir's office and said, "Yo, take out Mitchell," which they did. Win, don't lie. You said that. So essentially, this vacuum was created by who? Eddie Howe. So essentially, Eddie Howe has the last say pertains to everything. And what it's looking like, and based upon just using my rationale, based upon rationalizing this situation, it looks like Eddie Howe has the final say pertains to every signing. So he's like, "Yo, get me so and so." Oh, we can't get him. All right, cool. Get me so and so. Then they come back. Oh, we can't get him. And they look on their computers. Access go. And it seemed, and based upon how it took 2 weeks for us to get this deal done, we're going back to the fact that that since we haven't got a DOF, we are finding it a lot more difficult to procure players. And also, maybe I don't know if Eddie's stubborn or not. I don't know, but it seems as if he wants complete control over recruitment. Hence why he puts his own family member in that role as well. And because of that, it slowed down everything because he's not open, based on my opinion, to taking players that he's not heard of or seen before. It seems like, again, he's a meticulous individual, which we've heard him on multiple different interviews, that he's very meticulous. So he would probably want to spend a lot of time in scouting individual players. And because of this, we're seeing it being played out, because every player we go for, it seems to be at par to the players at Madrid, United, Man City, Chelsea.
But doesn't that show ambition?
Okay.
So, doesn't that show ambition?
So the nepotism that you refer to...
Hold on. Yeah, let him go on to that one.
sorry, there's one thing to show ambition, but you also got to be logical and rational with it as well. We are not at that stage. I don't want to be hearing, oh, Newcastle are trying to get Donnarumma. I don't want to be hearing that Newcastle trying to get Vinicius, and then it doesn't go to anything. I want to hear us to push on and get the players that wins us games. That shows ambitions to me. Get players who want to become the world class players,
I
rather,
agree
because
with you.
that's who we can afford.
I agree with you, and that's
Yeah.
why we're talking, the psychological side of the sport tonight with the doc. But for me, put yourself in Eddie Howe's shoes now, right? We have maintained very close to 3 seasons back to back in Champions League qualification. Unfortunately, we missed out by a freak result, if you like, last year. So for Eddie Howe, and I'm talking now on the basis of when you say we, obviously you're talking about the fans. But that's not my opinion. I am so happy that Eddie Howe believes that these type of figure roles that he's going for, these names, are that next stepping stone for Newcastle United. Now, yes, it's disappointing as a fan that we're not achieving these said names, and we are going down this list, this ever increasing list of named players. But for the ambition of the club, I think you've got to literally sometimes just take your cap off and say, you know what? If we get one of these players in, as we've all seen, I mean, I've never seen a channel turn so much in 12 hours. I made a note this morning. It's lovely to see optimism instead of skepticism at 9 o'clock. And then when I turn on and everybody's heard about Sesko going to Man United, Eddie Howe's to blame. It's like, what the hell? It's crazy world, this is. And that's what I said. Psychologically, the way sport affects families, the way sport affects fans, like I said, is opinions. It's all subject to an opinion. Doesn't mean that it's valid. Now, me and Win tomorrow are going to try and put a program together where we can see where it's gone wrong. Because I have got to that point now where I have seen nothing factual, nothing evidence-based whatsoever, apart from opinion that blames Eddie Howe and Andy Howe for what has gone wrong. I've seen nothing factual.
I'll say, Gary, is that we do have evidence pertaining to what has currently occurred. We have that Mitchell got kicked out, according to Win, was by Eddie Howe.
Wasn't.
We've also got, I'm not trying to blame Eddie Howe, but we've also got multiple different interviews where we see his approach to things, that he works tirelessly, he works very hard. We've seen situations with Ashworth left. We have 2 directors of football that end up leaving. So I feel like we've seen that 10 different players have rejected us. And gone to our rivals,
including one of the DOFs.
Yeah,
Ashworth. He left us.
His camera's
not
gone.
because of anything to do with Eddie Howe. Ashworth left us to go to Man U.
But I'm not negating
as
that.
Mbeumo did. As Pedro
and
did.
we were going for them players first. We didn't copy them to challenge them. We went in for them first. They then come to us.
That's what we think. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
But that's the argument, isn't it? That's the argument. We don't know what's going on behind doors, and all we get then is that negative vibe from fans trying to push a wedge between the club and the fans, if you like. Because what we're doing is separated. Again, this is why we love the fact that we've got a psychologist with us that can actually understand the effect that sport has on the general public, not only sports people. And I see that every day in our chat, because you've got 2 people either sides of the fence. One believes one thing, the other believes the other. And if you believe the other,
there the twain shall meet.
And you're involved in a cult for some unknown reason, because you aren't part of the finger pointing gang, and
but there's rational reasoning though.
But that's what I said. But there should be a rationalised argument and a fact-based argument, and I haven't seen nothing fact. You have taken of what Win has said as fact. Nobody knows that, Yinks.
No one said that, but I'm going based. But the likelihood is quite high. Eddie Howe, Yasser went into a room together. Mitchell ends up leaving. Okay, Eddie Howe and Ashworth, the same situation. And the likelihood.
No, not the same situation at all. Yeah, Ashworth left to go to Man United.
2 DOF left within 3 years.
Yeah, because he thought his grass
was green over at Man United.
Anyway, listen.
I'm just saying it doesn't look quite good.
It doesn't. No, this is what I said. I'm not dismissing it, because Eddie Howe has now got a lot of pressure on his shoulders to perform now, and I think that is something that Eddie Howe didn't foresee.
And as for blaming nepotism for the poor transfer windows, bear in mind it was that very same nepotism that got us Bruno, Botman, Isak, Trippier, Byrne. That very same nepotism got us to where we are.
I agree with
If that's what you care to call it.
I'm not here to applaud for something that was done 2 years ago. Again, there's 3 transfer windows. Nothing occurred, which was due to PSR. I'm not going to blame Eddie Howe for that. But in this particular scenario, in terms of the fact that we keep identifying the same players as top clubs and we don't have any other strategy against that, I'm going to put Eddie Howe has to the blame has to be laid with Eddie Howe. And also, I'm just going to go off again. Our recruitment strategy is not fit for purpose.
No, I'll give you. Yeah, I'll give you that, because I said to Win when Mitchell came out with that, there's got to be something that's not quite right. And again, where is it? The fact that we held on to players far too long? Is it the fact that we've got no sellable assets within the squad because they're too old? And I think it's either lose some of your superstars because there's no money behind the old ones that you've got, the deadwood, as I don't like calling it, from the start. I just need to say this because, bless him, Chris has put in the chat, smash the like buttons, guys, because $1.99 donation, 1,000 people watching, hit the likes button. And the other thing I wanted to say, and I hope you guys all agree with me, Betsy's watching. She's just recovering from a very small procedure. Hence, I'm hosting the show tonight because Chris is babysitting. I wish you all the best, sweetheart. I hope you get well very soon. And to support Betsy for actually coming on board and watching us while she's recovering, please smash the likes for Betsy as well to get well soon.
Hit the likes for Betsy.
They hit the likes for Betsy. There you go. And that, that's my whole point. Sorry, Mike.
I just wanted to add that if you look at the most successful clubs, they have recruitment teams. You don't just have one person making decisions, and the recruitment team should have a strategy. So we should have the successful organizations have like a 5-year strategy. And in that 5-year strategy, you have, say, for example, category A players, your players that you want to develop and recruit in the next 5 years, which will include, say, elite players. Then you may have category B players, which are players with potential, but not kind of at the level where they'll be, considered elite. And then you'll have category C, just as an example. So you have a recruitment team, right? You have people who have different inputs. Now we've got 5 people who have different opinions. And if you work as a recruitment team and you develop a strategy and implement it, you're more likely to be successful. But it just seems like to me, we're just kind of like, oh, this guy seems to be a good player. Let's just go and try and get him. Oh, okay, we didn't get him. Let's go. It doesn't work like that. It's not going. And the thing is, these elite players and their entourage, they know this. If I come to you and pitch you as Newcastle United, and I'm sure Sesko's probably thinking, what these guys like? Who's actually like the leader here? Who's making the decisions? What's my trajectory? What's my 5-year plan? You know, it's. I mean, again, it's conjecture, but I can just, from my experience working with elite teams, I think there's a big issue with Newcastle United in terms of leadership.
You're absolutely spot on. And to be fair, I've been listening to Paul Montgomery, who was the ex-scout of Newcastle United, talk this. Well, I think it was this week. He did an interview with the BBC Northeast, and he made that exact point. And he come up with the fact that we haven't been... in actual fact, I could probably play it in the background. So I won't show it, but I will play it. Let me know if you guys can hear this, because like I say, for whatever reason, sometimes my sound doesn't come through for you guys. So just hopefully you can hear this. I've just forwarded it to the part where he comes on board. So it's a lack of aggression in the transfer market. Just listen to this.
To be honest, if I was one to be critical rather than constructive, I would question Newcastle's lack of aggression in the transfer market. You know, in this modern day, you have to be aggressive when you want to sign a player. When you identify a player, when you decide he's your man, you have got to get to him, get to his face, sit with him, tell him he's the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, Bobby Robson was unbelievable at that, by the way. And then, or alternatively, get him on a flight or a plane, a private jet, and get him to that stadium and show him the stadium, show him the videos of the fans when Newcastle had won the cup, the silver, to show what he's coming into, the passion of the club. And that's what sells the club. But to do that, you've got to be aggressive. And I just, sadly, I don't see that at Newcastle at the moment. You know,
again, it's virtually what you guys have just been saying, isn't it? You know, it's like I say, you don't see the aggression from the sales team pitching the right wording, if you like. And I think that is it. The project that they are pitching, we haven't achieved yet because we haven't got the history.
How long is it since we did have that?
Well, we've never had it win, have we, really? If you think about it. It's 70 years before we've won a trophy.
No. What I'm saying is, since Amanda went,
well,
we haven't had that in the transfer market.
In that transfer market.
The PIF regime.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we really need to hit on.
That's one thing she was brilliant at.
Is it true? I don't know if you said, but apparently Jamie Rubin was flown out to Germany to go and try and get the deal. I mean, that for me, okay, may not be the ideal individual to be dealing, but at least he's local and he's got a little bit of passion and he loves the club. They're the kind of people you want. If you don't believe in the product you're selling, you're not going to sell it. It's that's a great scout by all counts, but he's not a negotiator.
I think the point is, yes, it's great that he's going, but it's like a firefighting mission. It's not like a strategy. It's all right. Okay, Jamie's like, okay, I better get involved. That's the successful organizations don't work like that. You don't just tomorrow you're like, okay, now people are saying, oh, why is Yasser not getting involved? He's like the chairman. The chairman of multinational organizations don't get involved in the nitty gritty. They employ people to get things done. And I think also that Newcastle has to just revisit strategy. Like, for example, we have to have ambassadors, brand ambassadors who are well known. For example, Alan Shearer. What's Alan Shearer doing? Like, Newcastle should be employing him to sell the vision, the brand. Youngsters growing up know about Alan Shearer, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, exactly. Big names.
If Alan Shearer turns up to Sesko and says, "Look, we're going to fly you out to St. James's Park. We're going to show you the stadium. We're going to show you the development plans. We're going to show you your development trajectory." So these players need to feel loved. They need to feel wanted. It's not always about money. Obviously, money is important, but psychologically, they need to know. Like, imagine Alan Shearer coming to you and saying, "Look, we really want you, and you could be the next Alan Shearer."
Right.
Got a point.
Yeah. I just got some super chats, guys. I just want to put these up because, like I say, we've got some really good content and we're flying at the moment. So thank you all. Chris has put in, Dr. Almo will have to hand his resignation in after this. I think he'll need a checkup from the neck up. And Irish Assassin, again, another 5. I hope Dr. Almar also has his own psychiatrist after joining this madhouse of conversation with the Toon Window of Doom. Queen of Heart has put in a lovely one for Betsy, for Betsy's recovery and for 1 week celebrating birthdays like Lewis today. Hope this goes towards everyone smashing the like button. Thank you all so much for your ongoing support. Yeah, of course you can, mate. It's an open...
I want to put voices towards the doctor. So basically, I want to understand the perspective of, because multiple different players will go through different routes to become a professional football player. You can have some players who were scouted when they were younger, they were wonder kids. There will be some players who really went through, who were rejected multiple different times, and they had to go through multiple different trials to be able to get to a bigger club. So you can have your Antonios who ended up at West Ham, who went through the lower leagues to get into the Premiership, or you can even have your Isaks, Jamie Vardy as well. You have your Isak as well. Dan Burns is a perfect example. And you have your Isaks, who probably had it more easier. He didn't have to work in Sainsbury's, or I remember
didn't push trolleys.
He didn't push no trolleys. He was, I presume, especially at their ages, when I was talking about 10 to 15 years ago, they would have had everything catered to them. So essentially, I think also Sesko is also in the same situation as Isak, where to a degree his life from the age of 11 him being a big prospect, he would have had his life catered to him, unlike a Dan Burn. So essentially, what I'm trying to understand is that when you have to sell the club to a Sesko, you have to be completely different to a Dan
Yeah.
Burn. And because the fact that Newcastle haven't got, or in my humble opinion, no one dropping anyone else, this is my opinion, haven't got a strategy at all in this recruitment, and for recruitment at the moment. I call it the chat GPT recruitment. But we're going player to player. Is how would we have to sell the club to an individual like Wissa? Would it have to be completely different to how we sell it to Sesko?
Yeah, excellent question, and I think you've touched on a very important point, and I think this is great that you've mentioned that. So what happens is basically like working with elite sportsmen. So I work with young people as well who are, as you mentioned, kind of like at different developmental pathways. So for example, cricket, football, and this is where like having a psychiatrist or a mental health kind of professional being part of the club is really important, because you get to speak to the families of young players. You get to know them, you get to know their backgrounds, their temperament, because everybody's different, right? Every human being is different. So same as the elite players are very different. So like you mentioned, somebody might go through a lot of hardship, rejections. They're more likely to be more resilient, more likely to be more appreciative of the chances they get at an elite level. Whereas somebody like, for example, Isak or Sesko, they've kind of flourished from a very young age. They've got whatever they wanted. They felt loved. So their profile will be different. So what I would do is, like, again, the strategy comes in. Like, you identify in the next 5 years, you want to recruit, I don't know, 2 strikers, 2 midfielders of an elite level. You go and do your homework. You go and do psychological profiles. You go and look at their histories, their family history. Do they come from poverty? Are they from the middle class? And so each strategy is different, right? So for example, somebody who's gone through a lot of hardship, you can sell the club in a much different way as to somebody who's already at an elite level from a very young age. So again, it comes down to profiling of players, understanding their temperament. And I think Jose Mourinho is brilliant at this, and so was Bobby Robson. They get to know the kind of characters and what kind of characters they want to be recruiting. And you need different types of characters. You need leadership people or players, and then you need more people who are more resilient, and then that's how you kind of address issues, right? And I think this is coming on to how the Isak situation, we all become experts, but we don't know behind the scenes what's happening. Maybe he's got a lot of stuff going on in his life, personal life, which is affecting his conduct and professionalism, and because there's a vacuum, we don't know, and we just kind of like presume. I'm not excusing the bad behavior, by the way, and the disrespect,
No,
but
no, no.
I'm just saying that often people like me who work with elite players who have addiction problems, for example, Gascoigne had addiction problems, Gary Speed, who had depression and unfortunately
Yeah.
took his own life. So there are actually a lot of problems, maybe marital issues going on. So the fans, they don't see this kind of stuff. They just see, oh, this is Isak. He's an elite player. Why is he not performing, or why is he acting like this? Maybe he's got stuff going on in the background we're not aware of.
No, you're absolutely spot on, gentlemen. We've done virtually an hour now. I just want, obviously, we need to go back and have a look at some of the starred comments, because, like I say, we've been on a bit of a crest of a wave. It's been brilliant. Love listening to all of you, as I always do. Mark Todd has bought one here. Do Man United have the money at this moment without having to sell? If we walk away, is it not a risk for guaranteed money for RB Leipzig? I mean, to be fair, I have not really a clue on Manchester United's finances. I hear some people say we don't need to sell. I hear some people say yes, we do. And I think, like I say, that they've bought unwisely in the past. And again, it's
I think
the
you can say that again.
yeah, I think you look at the likes of the risk versus reward, going on to what Big Yinks was saying earlier about Eddie Howe going for the big name stars in his black book rather than the players that are up and coming. And as you've seen, unfortunately, the risks that you take with some of these players, they don't always mould into the style of play or what you want from them. So the risk versus reward, if you think of the cost that Manchester
But
United
what I would
paid out,
also say to that is, what we've done is, listen, we've qualified for the Champions League again. This time, for the first time in 4 windows, we've actually got money to spend. So we have set our sights on the top. And as I've been saying right throughout the window, nobody's telling me that Newcastle haven't got a list of targets. You try for the first one, if you don't get it, you move down the list, down the list, down the list, and we've ended up with Wissa and Sesko instead of Buemo, Ekiteke, and Pedro.
My argument to that, though, Win, and it's not a massive
And
argument.
I don't think it's I don't think it's wrong to be aiming for the.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. But my argument,
and you might hit the moon.
Yeah, the only argument I have, because we've gone back to the year 22 Black Book that Eddie Howe had obviously looked at players that could hit the mould then, where they were achievable for the price. But now they've obviously shown a little bit of progress within their own teams, their own parental clubs, and they've moved on. They have not only moved on mentally, they've also moved on costly. So now we are starting to reach, as you say, for the stars. And unfortunately, they are either not wanting to come because they haven't been given the right project, and they believe.
No, they haven't come. They haven't come because they've gone to bigger clubs, and we need to accept where we are in the pecking order.
Absolutely. So that's what I said. They haven't been sold the project because when we started this, the players that come through the door from the very outset were sold the project, and it's how the project was sold. And I think like what Big Gig was saying, part of the argument that the fans have got is we haven't got the right players in the right positions to sell what Newcastle want to achieve. And I understand that. That is part and parcel of every professional club to have the right people in the right areas. But I still cannot believe that he's gone back to 22's data and said, I still want these players. Because I do believe what Yings is saying is correct, that as players around Europe, across the South Americas, that have developed and have gone on to become good players, that we haven't even dipped our toes into the water yet.
I'll even go on and say the Hoyson was bought for like 12 million, and Bremo was bought for like 8 million or something like that. Nothing too much. Cunha wasn't bought for much. I think maybe 20 million for before he went to Wolves. Who else is there? Even Sesko was bought for like I don't know how much. But again, they were bought from somewhere before they became
one
the players.
Of them that came off, there's a dozen that didn't come off,
and that's why you have a recruitment strategy
the same
team.
Price point at the time.
That's why you have a recruitment.
Houston's another one. We went in for Houston, and he decides to go to Real Madrid. Well, who thought?
Houston was at Juventus before he went to Bournemouth. And again, due to their recruitment, they were able to ascertain that this guy's going to be a decent player. Let's get him on the cheap. And that's what we should be identifying. That's the whole essence of like building a club. Like we shouldn't be thinking. We need to be thinking more along the lines of Dortmund and Atletico Madrid.
So what you're saying, Jens, is that we should turn the clock back, go back to 22, when we were in the market for project players.
No.
As opposed to being in the Champions League and looking for players who are going to come into that squad and improve it. I cherish the fact that what we're trying to do right now, we're not being very successful at it, but what we're trying to do is the players that we are trying to sign now will instantly improve the squad. And to be buying project players at this stage of our growth is send the wrong message, as far as I'm concerned, to the rest of the the gold star players that we've got.
What I'm trying to say is that what I'd want, when we realized we had PSR issues and we went 3 windows without signing one player, is that we would have developed a large portfolio of different individuals who could have the potential to compete against other players in our squad. So or who would have the hunger to compete with players in our squad so they can take a starting position. That's what my expectations from this transfer window. That it's like rather than us going straight for the same players that United Man City, Chelsea are going for. That's what my expectation was. That again, that enough work would have been done behind the scenes for them to be able to ascertain who can push Isak, who can push Bruno, who can push Botman to a degree, and make them a better version of themselves. Because there's loads of players out there that can do that. But again, based upon what I've seen, none of that's been done. Literally,
No.
as I said, the recruitment strategy has been ChatGPT. And
Yeah.
I think I just wanted to mention, sorry, you have to have a holistic approach. It's not either or. You go for the elite players, but you also go for the development players. You because you need players that come into the first team after 12 months or 24 months, and you map out their development plan. But you also go for the elite players. And we need to ask. It's good that we're going for these elite players, but why are we failing? We need to learn from our mistakes. For example, Mark Gahey, we tried to get him last year. We had money, so I think PSR is just a cop out. To be honest, we were bidding 60 million for him last year.
Wow, no, I'm not having that. By the way, the big difference.
How much did we bid for Gahey last year?
40 million or 30 million, depending on who you believe.
It was more than that.
It was 50 million. Yeah. Yeah,
60 million, wasn't it? Or 50 or 60 million?
It was 50 million. And they obviously then moved the goalpost. Mitchell said, that's the offer. Yeah. That's the down offer. If you take it or leave it. I think the frustrating thing was the fact that it took 2 weeks to actually say
exactly. This is the issue. And the same issues happened again this year.
It's the time that it takes.
The timing.
The big difference between this window and the previous 3 is that this window we have got money.
Well, we must have
had money last year. We had money last year.
Last year we had that much money that we had to sell Minty and Anderson to balance them.
Well, this was after Gahey was after.
We did that, and then you said they would push the boat out.
That's not a strategy. Just pushing the ball out for one player. You should have multiple options. If you can't get Gahey, they could have got 2 players.
If you remember, what we did was we went for Gahey, and when Crystal Palace, Steve Parish was pushing for 60 million instead of 50 million that we offered. I mean, there's a load of figures that were bandied around at the time, but the bottom line was he knocked me back. So we went for Elanga, and we offered them
on the last day or the day. That's not a strategy. That's not a strategy.
That's panic buying.
But going back to what Omar was saying, though, mate, to learn lessons from what we've done, surely we were aware of what is required to get Gahey. So why haven't we done it? We know that the fee's not going to be the same as what it was.
You're
willing to pay 55
I want to know who's signing the checks. Who was making those decisions? Because I can guarantee you it won't be Eddie Howe, it'll certainly not be Andy Howe, and it won't be Steve Nixon either.
But the check comes as the last step. The check comes as a last step. Sorry, guys.
So what's changed? What my argument is...
but who was
one at a time, guys. One at a time.
Who was negotiating with the clubs to say, so Leipzig say, look, 75 million's not enough. Who was actually empowered to take that negotiation forward? Because the problem is we don't know.
Andy, go on.
Okay. So what I was saying, Wayne, right? We've identified a value that we were happy to pay for Gahey. Apparently, we went up past £60 million with add-ons. It's a year on from that. He's still young. Yes, I know he's only got a year's left on his deal. You don't want to be overpaid. However, if 50 million is the fee, why don't we just pay it? Because we're willing to pay more than 10 million more.
I'm with you on it. I say pay 50 million for him, pay 50 million for Wissa.
You know what's going to happen, don't you? We're going to spend all this time on Sesko. We're going to spend all the time again on another couple of strikers. And then by the time we come to go and get a centre back, Gahey's going to be gone, and we're going to be back to square one.
And it's criminal to repeat the same mistake again. You should learn from your mistakes in any walk of life. Walk of life. As Newcastle, we keep repeating the same mistakes. How long is Pedro? We could have got Pedro if we actually bothered to, go in aggressively and show our intent and just pay. We did dillied and dathered, and then Chelsea came and took him.
That was my belief at the time. But
Andy, I agree with you pertaining to Gahey, but we got to be very cautious because we're in a PSR world. One thing I believe that we don't want to do is to empower our rivals by giving them money and then taking away money from our our own from our own account within itself, because it could be a double whammy where we paid more than expected for a Premiership player, but because of
Agree.
PSR, that's now messed us up
But you're
here and
still
there in the
giving
food
10
shop.
But
million what you were going to pay for
you
a
know,
million.
you've got to make your mind up which way do you want to go.
No, I agree
Yeah.
with what his temperament. You don't want to be seen as easily overpaying, otherwise clubs will take the piss out of you.
And I've
What I'm
said
trying to
that
say
for
is,
long enough.
why is the people that decide on signing players, they value Gahey and they think he gets to a certain ceiling? What's changed? Do they think he didn't have a great season last season? Because since last season, he's been arguably
Well,
one
no,
of the
what's
best.
changed is he's got a year left on his a year less on his
So is
contract.
Salvini potentially worth £60 million? That's what I'm saying. It's a gamble. We don't know. We know
Yeah, yeah.
Gahey is worth that money.
But I think Gay's going to Liverpool. I think everyone's made his mind. I think
know,
there must be.
Get Isak.
Yeah, I think he's going to Liverpool. I think they're already like the reason why it's been elongated is because Liverpool want him a lot cheaper, and Palace are hoping that Liverpool will pay a higher fee. But I think Liverpool may be willing to either. I believe, I could be wrong, he'll go on the last day to Liverpool for 30 million, or Liverpool get him on a free, or go to a foreign, or go to another team next year.
I believe they'll get him if they get Isak as
Hold on.
well.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Just put that one up again for us. When Dylan Richardson has just put a super chat in. Is there any chance we still get Sesko?
There's still a chance. There's still a chance. Because
until he says no.
It's
Yeah,
all
exactly.
media driven. It's all media driven. Every
yeah.
night there's either United are getting him or Newcastle. That's a problem with our as fans. We don't take a sensible approach. We become very emotional.
Yeah.
There's still a chance. Last night, Goldbridge was crying because he thought that Newcastle were getting Sesko.
Yeah, you see it. It was crazy, wasn't it?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Boys, we've got so many questions. Thank you, everybody out there in viewerland. John Clark has said, does Dr. Almar think Isak can be persuaded to stay at Newcastle?
I can. I do think he can be persuaded. I think it's the approach. Again, I disagree with. Eddie Howe has a lot of strengths. I disagree with him isolating him, like allowing him to go home from the Celtic game, because there's a vacuum and there's agendas. And can you imagine his agent in his ear telling him, giving him bad advice? I know he's a grown
Absolutely.
adult, but these people get influenced by their group, right? So if he was part of the Newcastle group, he was forced to go, he's less likely to be affected by the negative kind of agendas. So I think it needs to be, as fans, we need to obviously call him out for his poor conduct, but don't take such extreme stances where there's no way he can play for the club again, and he's an asset, right? If you have a Lamborghini and you crash it, and you're not just going to get rid of that Lamborghini, you can get it repaired.
Yeah. No, it's a good analogy.
I'm a firm believer in trying to repair the
Sesko could be done with a favour going to Man United, because it may force her to keep a hold of Isak.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to burst the bubble.
Yeah.
I don't want to burst the bubble.
Yeah.
But now, Sesko looks like he is heading towards Man United, or it's favouring now. He's going to Manchester United. Liverpool now are turning their attention to a centre back. And have a guess who do you reckon it's going to be?
Gahey.
There you go. And again, this is what we're saying. If you think about the cartel, right? The cartel boys now are always going to be against little old Newcastle. And I don't know what it is about it, but I often feel as though they will stick a price on every player that we go to of value, not just a name, of value. And they will try and get one of them to go against us. They do not want Newcastle to succeed. And like I said, how come out of all this, none of the players that we have been in for first have ever been thought of about other teams until we've made the first approach?
mentioned.
And then they've gone. So that's what I'm saying.
But Gary, we have to be. We have to be smarter as well. We're not. We shouldn't be kind of like telling the media we're going for this player. We have to be smart. Why do we have to
be that way, didn't we?
Yeah. Why do we have to publicize that you were going for Sesko? Just go and get the job done, and then publicize after you've signed him.
So who's the mole?
Sky Sports.
No. Remember when we had Botman and all these boys coming through the doors, Isak's, nobody knew until they'd virtually walked through the Newcastle doors.
Bruno as well.
Here's the conspiracy thing, and this is where me and Big Yinks is probably going to disagree, okay? with the finger pointing attitude, right? Because this is what I said. Think about it when Amanda Staveley got pushed through the doors to say bye-bye, thank you for your tenure, right? A lot of these people on the board were brought in by Darren Eales. When Darren Eales announced, now, and I'm going to say this openly because I know there's going to be a lot of people bashing me all the time on the chat because I was very much a Mitchell boy until I've heard all the crap that goes on. When Mitchell realised that Darren Eales, who was the bloke who brought him into the club and who he thought was going to be his buddy backing him for every decision being made, told the public that he was leaving and another person was running the helm, literally less than a year, he walked back out the door. Now, like I said, you can put so many things down as coincidental, but when you look at all the team that has been brought in at boardroom level, they're all Darren Eales' team. Every single one of them. Nobody else. So people who come to me, and I've said this to Win, who tells me that Eddie Howe, a coach, has got more pull than everybody else who never employed Eddie Howe. I'm sorry, mate. That is BS. That is total BS. And like I said, I do agree with Yinks for saying about the transfer policy is not fit for purpose. And I think that is the only thing I think that Mitchell has come out with a little bit of glory. But the rest of it, unfortunately, I do think there's a lot of fire going on behind the scenes that seems to be really upsetting the apple cart of Newcastle progressing with this project. And I think it's a lot deeper than people just going and asking a player if he wants to come to Newcastle. Because I think there's problems arise there. And like I said, you can look at the big clubs around you coming and cherry picking the apples off the tree, right? That's fine. They are big clubs. But if you're selling the success of Newcastle right, with the right ambition, with the right people behind you, with the right persona, if you like, because at the end of the day, when people are selling stuff, you have to believe in what you're selling. And if the people there have gone in with the attitude that because of all the crap that's happening in the background, that is going to go. I always believe in the first 12s. The first 12 paces you walk towards somebody, the 12 inches of your face, and the first 12 words spoken, the 312s, because that tells you a lot about the person and how it's going to approach you. And I always say to somebody, if you can show me the love within them 312s, I'll listen to you. If you can't in them 312s, then unfortunately, I'm always going to be a bit skeptical. I'm going to back off.
I'm just going to clip that, Gary. Cherry picking the apples.
Yeah, there you go.
I think, Gary, I just with the Isak situation, I think we need to decide whether we want to be an elite club or not. So Isak, he clearly is one of the best strikers in the world, right? If Liverpool are willing to pay 150 million, so why as a club are we not sitting down with him and identifying? I know it's probably related to money and being wanted as well. So why instead of bidding, say, 90 million euros for Sesko, we've got strikers better than Sesko. Why can't we offer him a good contract, which identifies his strengths? The other thing is also psychologically. If you think about it, Isak is one of the best players in the club, right? And he's unhappy. This can become like a cancerous situation where it spreads. So next summer, Bruno's going to be like, well, this club is not going to meet my wage demand, so I'm going to start exploring other options, because last year Isak got what he wanted, and then Tonali will be like the same. So you have to show strong leadership and also compassion towards your players.
I don't think it's so much wage demands. I think it's what the players will be looking at now is ambition.
Yeah,
ambition, and leadership,
The project, do PIF still have the ambition that they had hitherto to go? Because looking at what's happened in the window so far, and looking at the fact that if they sell Isak, that sends a message straight to the rest of the crown jewels saying, this is where we are and this is where we're going to stay.
Yeah. Plus also, what it does, it signals, again, it's a power play, right? It signals to people like Arsenal and Liverpool, they can come and destabilize our best players. And then you're just going to be fed to the sharks. You have to be a shark. You have to be a shark. and sometimes you have to take a loss, short-term loss for long-term gain. So you tell Isak you're going nowhere. You've got a 3-year contract. Sorry, mate. You gotta
You
kind
can
of put up
sign a
with
new contract and get
yeah
more
Yeah.
money.
yeah exactly.
One here, maybe you can answer this, being over in the Qatari Saudi area. Terry Bilton's asking, can someone answer the question, please? Do you think the owners will lose interest? Bearing in mind our owner said he wanted us to be number one, which is impossible.
I don't think they'll lose interest, Gary. I think that the way things work here is money is not no kind of barrier. It's more about being, like having things which other people can't have. But the problem is, I think PIF, they've given too much leeway. They've employed people, and they've kind of trusted them too much to get the job done. And probably they haven't been like taking them into accountability. So I think the weakness of the PIF has been not identifying a leadership structure which takes people into account. So usually what they will do is you have a monthly or a quarterly meeting, and you set KPIs, and you identify, and you take people to account. Right, why have you not achieved this KPI that we set? And what are you doing about it? How are we gonna improve in the next 3 months? So I don't think that mechanism's been implemented, and I don't know why that is the case, because I know they haven't lost interest. They if you look at the World Cup bid, if you look at the ambition of them recruiting Ronaldo and these top players to the Saudi Pro League, that is a reflection of their ambition. But I think they can't get involved in Newcastle because they've got so many projects ongoing. So then it comes down to appointment of the right people who can implement their vision.
Absolutely
I
spot
just want
on.
to add as well.
2 seconds,
sorry.
Bernard Burrows, thank you so much for becoming a member. Carry on, mate.
No, I just want to add is also we're in territory. We're in a different time when it comes to
Uncharted.
Uncharted.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
You said that without your lips moving.
No, thank you. We're in uncharted time pertaining to PSR basically. So again, no individual has ever seen a society, or no, we have never seen a football environment where there's strong restrictions when it comes to PSR, and regardless of how much money the Saudis have to invest in the club, they're completely restricted. So we're not going to see the full force of what they can really do due to the restrictions. So we have to also take our time. I understand it's going to be a long process, and Eddie Howe might not be the manager that brings us to the promised land. So we can't just be, well, PIF doesn't care about us no more. I don't see it like that. I just see that the environment itself is very hostile for growth as a football club. So it's going to take time. We're gonna have to go through these difficult scenarios where we're going to be rejected heavily by multiple different clubs, and we got to understand that in due time we will get there, but it's
And
going to
if
take time.
anybody can make the best of not being able to buy la creme de la creme, who is it? Who's better than Eddie Howe doing that? If we accept
It's proved he can do it in the
we
past, hasn't
can't go and buy the creme de la creme, so we've got to go back to buying 30 million Brunos and 30 million Botmans. Who's better than Eddie Howe to do that?
I think the thing people forget, and again, it's nice having Dr. Almar here because I'm sure he's dealt with a lot of youngsters in the same vein. What you have, it's got to be a 50-50 switch. If coach can only lead you, as I always said, coach can lead the horse to water. The horse he can't make the horse drink it. So the player has to be willing to join in to the vision what the coach wants to give him. And I think, like I say, that's why these guys make such a difference, because sometimes, even though the player has all the ability in the world, and we've seen it with a lot of stars in the Premier League, players have all the technical ability in the world, but they just aren't able to perform at that level week in, week out. And 99 times out of 100, it's the psychological effect. It's the pressure of the fans. It's the big arenas. It's a number of things. But you see them on the training field, and they are all Maradonas, but they just can't switch on when they go onto the football field. That's where coaches and these guys come to the highlights.
This is why you need elite level performance coaches and psychiatrists, psychologists. I'll just mention to you, I contacted Newcastle United, I think about a year and a half ago, offering to just support them and help them do psychological profiling and help them. I contacted the head of the medical department, but I didn't get a very positive response. So I think we're very, if you look at the injuries that get involved, And by the way, I wasn't asking to be paid. It was a voluntary thing. I said I'd be happy to work with players just to help them develop from their mental well-being. So I think we're really backwards in terms of our approach. We have so many injuries. So our sports medicine department's not fit for purpose. I think our leadership recruitment is not fit for purpose. Eddie Howe's doing an amazing job, but he needs support and he needs a structure and he needs to be plugged into that. So I don't know. I don't know who's making these decisions.
So,
I
Gary,
totally
go
go on,
back
mate.
to the question that was asked before, the ultimate question. Is there a chance Isak stays? Now, there's two boxes that need to be ticked if Isak's going to stay. One, he's going to be wanting paid more money. Two, he wants to see more Isaks in the team. If there's no more Isaks in the team, then his ambition isn't met. The only problem we have got is if we have to go all out and bust to give Isak the contract, where's the money to bring in the Isaks? So,
Well,
in my opinion, could we look? Let's get rid of Sesko. Let's forget about Sesko. Could we bring in someone like an Ollie Watkins and a top defender and a top midfielder and say, look, give it the year. We'll give you 280 grand a week. But what we will do is if we qualify for the Champions League, we'll backdate your pay and we'll up it to 320 a week or something. There's an incentive there for him. He's also getting more than double what he's paid already. And also, keeping Isak is the biggest selling point for other players. If we can keep Isak,
Exactly.
I love it. I absolutely love it. But if I can, what you've got to understand is now, and I go back to, is it fit for purpose?
yeah,
Because you've just
No.
answered the question exactly how Eddie Howe feels at the minute.
Yeah.
How many Isaks can we say in this window? Let's have a look at my book. Let me have a look at all these elite players that have gone to all the elite clubs because I want to show Isak that we've got ambition.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you sell Isak the project? By going to try and sign high-ranked players. For me, it's dog eat dog, and I could understand exactly the frustration on fans because, again, they've not come through the door. You reach the crest of the wave as soon as you see the approach. You think, "Wow, can you imagine Ekitike and Isak up top for us? Wow, it's fantastic." Everybody's up there because it's something exciting. It's something really tangible. But then all of a sudden, somebody takes that stool from underneath your legs and you fall. And it's that crash. And that's what I said. The emotive side of football affects everybody.
You think he felt threatened?
Well, like I said, I think he needs to feel threatened now. I think he realises now that, unfortunately, Isak isn't bigger than Newcastle.
Yeah.
And I think that is the big thing now. For Isak's got to come back with cap in hand because, as Dr. Almar's already said, there's far too many failings as an individual that have gone behind the club. And he has to come now with cap in hand, with that Oliver begging bowl, and say to Mr. Eddie Howe, listen, boss, I've listened to what you've said, critical. I know what you're saying. You know, I've got to prove myself now. He spent 5 hours in the club on his own today, you know, pushing and pulling, doing all the bits and pieces. So I think he's doing everything that he can now. And now it's up to Liverpool to come in with a higher bid. And it's up to Eddie Howe and his team to sit down. And like I said before, we will understand and see how much of a people person Eddie Howe is.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is also we have to take a balanced approach. We can't be emotive, you know. We have to take a balanced approach. We have such a one of the world's best assets in terms of Alexander Isak. People are willing to pay 150 million. So yes, he's made mistakes, but a lot of it has been self-inflicted by the club as well. It's not one person isn't always there's always two sides to a story. I'm not justifying again his actions, but definitely the club has also made mistakes, and so they need to sit and identify what the mistakes are and just reconcile them. And by the way, this thing about Liverpool is media driven. Why are we falling into the trap of saying, okay, 150 million, we'll sell him? Why should we sell him? He might not perform for a couple of weeks, but then he'll get his act together. He's an elite sportsman, and there's precedent. If you look at Luka Modric was also had a similar situation when he was at Spurs, and they took and Daniel Levy said, "Mate, you're not going anywhere." And he had one of his best seasons, and then he left the following year. So why can't we do this? Why can't we do the same with Isak? Why are we? Why are we following into the trap that Liverpool are trying to set for us?
No, I agree entirely, and I've been saying this for a while now. You know, the utopia for Newcastle United, which is all I'm bothered about, is to have Isak for at least one more season. Give us 12 months to prove to you that we have got the ambition, that we can go where we want to go, And if after 12 months you still want to leave, you can go with our blessing for a lesser fee than the 150 million.
Yeah.
Lawrence Gill's got one for you, Win. Win is talking nonsense again. The transfer panel, as announced by NUFC, is Andy Howe, who is head of recruitment, and Steve Nixon. Well, Andy Howe isn't head of recruitment. He's the assistant to the CEO. So that's a bit of a change. I think what the biggest problem I have with all this at the minute is who else is going to do it? We've seen, we've seen the DOF. We've seen the DOF walk out the door for whatever reason. We've got nobody that's selling the project to any player coming on. We've even had the Rubens fly over to Germany to try and do something and try and sell the project, which seems to have failed. Yeah, allegedly, which seems to have failed. Even though at the time it seemed to have proven the point. So I want to know, and I want to ask you guys, if Eddie Howe, Andy Howe, and Steve Nixon isn't doing it, who could do it? Okay. Well, he was promoted though, wasn't
he? Who's head of recruitment? Who's head of recruitment?
Well, this is what I say. Steve Nixon's head of recruitment, and Andy Howe was under Steve Nixon, but he got promoted to assistant CEO in February.
I don't think he did, by the way, guys.
Well, according to a lot on Google, it was. So, and I've only gone on that.
How about the mighty Win becomes the director of football?
He should absolutely. He should be the DOF. But there you go.
Assistant head of first team recruitment.
No, that's Aldwin. He's assistant. He's assistant to the director. So the CEO.
There's a lot of AS. He's been an ass lately. I know that.
Absolutely, and that's what I said. He got promoted. I think it was in February because he was under Steve Nix, and obviously it wasn't going well. He got promoted within, and again, it wasn't by him. He didn't go for the job. He was asked if he wanted the job by Darren Eales. Nothing to do with Eddie Howe. 1st of February. Yeah, that's right. So it was the 1st of February 24, and before that, obviously, he was a scout under Steve Nixon. So there you go. So that's what I said. There's so much out there, pointing the finger at all of these people. But if they're having to step up because there's nobody else to do it, surely you can't blame him for having a go. Because nobody's answered the question. Who else could do it?
We'll not get Les Ferdinand. He used to be director of football at QPR.
Of course you could. Why not have a look at Shami Amiobi? Because he's doing nothing as a loan manager. Maybe get Shami
back. I don't think I'd be giving God bless him any more powers.
But normally in organisations, once a role once a role needs to be temporarily filled because there's no positions, you tend to go out and get a contractor. So again, I don't understand why these roles ain't been fulfilled. And again, I'm going to go based upon my rationale. That means I presume somebody doesn't want them to be filled. And if Eddie Howe has to say so currently in terms of how the strategy is going forward, then this is what he wants, right? Because it's obvious they need assistance and help because they keep targeting one player at a time, and nothing's coming to fruition. Not to be disrespectful towards them, but what do you do now that the season is just a week away, or a week and a couple of days away? Now it's getting a lot more difficult in seeing what's gonna come to fruition pertaining to what occurs.
So it's just going to get with the evidence. But current structure is not working, mate. So we're going to have to change it.
And I think that's where Mitchell was bang on. Because, like I say, there wasn't the right people in the right positions to do the job or sell the projects. And I think you can't rely on the coach to sell the project. Even now, to a degree, he did sell the project at the start. When the players, the likes of Trips, was coming through the door, it was the relationship that he had and the conversations that he had with Eddie Howe. Selling that didn't come for money, because obviously he got paid less coming to Newcastle than he was at Atletico Madrid. So when you look at it, it's a case of, do you believe in what the coach is saying? No, the biggest problem we've started this ball rolling just when we're about to go on an Asian tour, where we're trying to get out there and promote the club globally. So straight away, one of your main assets to sell the club isn't available because he's there to coach the team, which everybody criticising that he should be doing. So again, I keep coming back to it. If Andy Howe and Steve Nixon weren't doing it, how could we do it? How could we get into the transfer market and try for these elite players? Because I can't see anybody else stepping up to the realm.
But with the amount of money Newcastle have, we could have easily contracted a plethora of people who would have ran. People, even Dr. Omar said himself, he was willing to volunteer his services to Newcastle. I guarantee you, there would have been a multitude of different scouts, multitude of people who would have thrown, who'd have ran from Holland to Newcastle to do the role of assist, or maybe not director of football, but to assist in finding players and recruiting players. And I refuse to believe that. Oh no, Eddie Howe is. I feel so bad for him because nobody's there to help him. No, he chose this. This is the environment he chose. Even Win agrees that Eddie Howe chose this because he let go of Paul Mitchell.
Just look
So
like he does.
the problem is that we've become. And Win, I love you. Don't please. I love you. I love you. Don't think. I'm not trying. I'm just saying.
We don't love you. I love you, honestly, but you're bloody wrong.
Nonsense.
But I'm just saying that we could have procured the individuals to assist us to move forward, but because we become Eddie Howe FC, and again, I'm
No,
not
no,
Eddie Howe
there's
out.
nothing the matter. What I'm saying is there's nothing the matter with the scouting recruitment team. It's the negotiating team that follows on from that.
It's not the negotiation. The players don't want to come
Which
to
is
us.
broken.
The players don't
We're
want to
not
come to us.
closing.
Let's just be honest. The players don't want us. They don't want to come to us, regardless. We can negotiate till kingdom come. They don't want to
Yeah.
come to us. You can't force somebody to come to you.
No.
Like I'm not gonna. So the negotiation to me really
Right.
means nothing.
And
The problem is.
so I go back to, they don't want to come to you, no, because they want to go to Chelsea, they want to go to Man U, they want to go to Real Madrid, they want to
That's
go
the
to
problem. So the problem is
Liverpool.
that our identification of players that will come
Okay,
and
so
that's the
there you
problem.
you've got to accept where you are in the current hierarchy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not negating that, but our issue is that we're unable to identify the players that want to come to us and give us 100%. That's what the biggest problem is at this moment of
No,
time.
The only way to find out, sit down with
what we're very good at doing is identifying the players that we want, that we think are going to improve the squad right now. Not project players. We've got a Champions League campaign coming right up.
But Win,
So
the
it's
most important
no
thing
good
they would want to, they need to want to
buying
play for us.
project players. We've got to have players who can hit the ground running. They've got to be elite players to start with.
But they want to have to play for us. That's the main thing. If we're
Absolutely.
unable to identify players that want to play for us, there's a big problem. And to the day, the
And
reason why
I think most of them would, were it not for the fact that the historically bigger clubs have seen what we're doing. It goes back to what Gary was saying early doors, that there's a conspiracy between between the top six
Conspiracy.
to prevent us doing that.
We need to get David Icke on this.
Absolutely.
I think there is a conspiracy, but we also have self-inflicted weaknesses
Wounds,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, like we're not experts in recruitment, but all of us can say that we take too long to recruit. How long have we been talking to Sesko? Why have we not been able to
2
close the
weeks.
deal? It's been weeks, maybe longer. Pedro from the beginning of the window opening, we were talking to him for like weeks. You should be more aggressive, show intent, and show the player that you really want him. For example, Bruno. Arsenal wanted Bruno, but we got him. Why? Because we showed him intent, we showed him a vision, and he came to Newcastle.
Amanda.
Yeah, exactly. There's the closer. There's the closer.
But guys, the successful organizations are system based, not person based.
Person based.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What
It
I'm
shouldn't
saying
be.
is
Yeah,
KIF have been negligent in not putting that there.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Geordie Dan's got a question. Do you guys want who do you want now? Ramos or Watkins?
Both.
Ramos for me.
Not Watkins for certain.
To be
I
fair,
mean,
I've not
I
watched
don't
much of Ramos, so I don't know. Based on his profile, I wouldn't mind Ramos, but Watkins is viable, man. Yeah, he does the job.
Watkins will solve the job for 18 months, but we'll get our shit back on track.
that's what I said. To me, it's like going back and signing Wilson. You know, you'll look at his face. When in that
Well,
situation,
it's nothing
in
the
that
matter with Wilson
in
when
that
we signed him, by the
situation when
way.
we signed him 5 seasons ago, we were in dire straits. We needed a goal
Looking
scorer.
relegated.
What we need now is Prem-proven goal scorer, and Watkins can do that. He could fill in, like you say, for 18 months. That's
I'd
all
rather
I'm
have
saying.
Worcester, though.
Yeah, that's what
Uh,
Get
I'd have Wisser as well.
like
I mean,
boats back on the boat and restructure a plan, get the staff that you need in. Yes, we're going to
Absolutely.
need a Wisser as well if he's
I
at
cannot understand why we haven't just said to Brentford, 50
But-
mil, there you go, it's there.
It's lovely to see that Wisser has gone back to Brentford with cap in hand and he's training with the club now, rather than being on
I think
strike. So
I
well done
think
him.
we need to call out unprofessional behavior. If we're going to criticize Isak, we need to
Oh,
criticize Wissa.
absolutely done that.
He's contracted. He can't refuse to. That's very poor conduct.
Absolutely. Chris Hoskins, a lot of the time he doesn't he doesn't agree. Hang on, Gary, you have no proof Eddie Howe didn't get rid of him. I'm sorry, fans aren't here to defend Eddie Howe. They're here for the better Newcastle United. Well, so am I. I'm a fan. But like I said, you can't. This is what I'm saying. It's really funny how fans come out and try and call you out for not having any proof, but don't show any proof themselves that he did. And that's what I'm saying. It's I don't want to be in a finger pointing environment. I think if you've got physical proof and evidence that has happened, then you've got all the right in the world to come and show it and say, you know what, this is what's happening at the moment. All we can do as a channel is speculate. This is what I believe. You don't have to believe me, but until I see anything different, it's not going to change my mind, because there's far too much damning on one side than there is pointing the other way. And like I said, I still can't believe in all these people in hierarchy positions still allow Eddie Howe to make all the choices and decisions. Doesn't make any sense to me.
So what we're
But
saying is
I believe your opinion.
Prime
I
Ministers,
respect
well, right, we just got to decide which one we believe.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like putting a number of names in a hat and blaming one of them, isn't it? That's how it feels.
This was the point I was making. There's a vacuum and there's lack of communication from the club, and this is why people then start just giving their opinions. At the end of the day, we value opinions, but it's not evidence based. Nobody has evidence. We don't have, and this is the issue. The best organizations have clear lines of communication with their shareholders, with their fans. And
brainstorming, as I always call it. I love brainstorming, because sometimes somebody will come up with something that you've not thought of at the time, and it just could be the simplest thing that just triggers that light bulb effect, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and it moves you forward as a unit.
And I'm just really upset as a psychiatrist. Why are we advertising who we're going to go for next? Why are we advertising we're going for Ramos? Why can't we just approach him, do the deal, and then publicize we've signed? Now everybody knows we want to go for Ramos.
Yeah,
But
hence I said, who's the mole?
Doctor, basically, I do believe though, because of there's so much monetary incentives with these journalists. Like, I love Craig Hope, I love Keith Dowie, but they know they know the fans, they know the engagement they're gonna get. Hence why they put it out there, and it benefits them solely to a degree. So, and I think that's the reasons why we're always gonna.
But it harms the club. It harms the club now.
The problem we've got now as well, though, Omar, is that, as you have rightly said, as soon as any club is in for a player, their agent immediately lets the cat out the bag, because he's after getting a better offer from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So gone are the days where you could kind of keep it hidden.
Yeah, PDK has got one here. Dr. Omar, in what way could this Isak situation affect the players going forward in the season, if any? Have you come across anything like this before?
I have. It's quite common in elite sport, because they have egos. A lot of these elite sportsmen and women, and it's just like a family. You always have disagreements, and maybe you have some poor conduct. But it's about integrating them back into the group with some consequences. So at the end of the day, all of the players know that Isak is one of the best players in the world, right? And the objective as a team is to achieve success. Will we be more successful with Isak in the team or out of the team, within the team? So our players, it's very transactional as well. They have short careers. So they would like Isak to be back in the group, but there has to be some consequences of poor conduct, right? Because otherwise, then everybody will start.
Everybody will do the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and there'll be a lack of.
Eddie
Yeah.
made that clear in his
That,
press conference.
that's why I love what Eddie said. But behind the scenes, you have to take like a balanced approach. Behind the scenes, put our arm around his shoulder and say, "Listen, man, you've done so much for the club. We really need you 12 months more, and we promise next year, we let you go." But so it's kind of like a carrot and stick approach. But not everything has to be advertised in public,
Yeah,
and this
totally
is where
agree.
this is where you need like mental health professionals to sit down with him and say, "Look, this is not acceptable, but we're here to support you and move forward."
A question from Yano. We have a no dickhead policy, but Eddie Howe is responsible for recruiting the two of the biggest dickheads to wear the black and white, Fraser and Isak. And again, we go back to this situation.
I certainly don't consider Isak to be the biggest dickhead.
But again, that's the mentality of how they're feeling at the moment with all the current situation. And I think this is exactly what Doctor was saying. Unfortunately, we get to that point where it's like everybody's pulling the rug from underneath our feet. It doesn't matter what we try and do to get back on that surfboard and hit the perfect wave. Somebody else then just comes and knocks it off. And it's like, God, how many knocks can we have as supporters without feeling this way? And it is that natural effect of just, unfortunately, being up 1 minute and completely crashing the next. Peter Shields.
Two of my big worries are, one, that PIF become so disillusioned with pissing against the wind as they have been doing since they took over, that they will become disillusioned and say, right, you know what, this ain't going to work. We're wasting our time. And even more of a worry for me is that Eddie Howe will turn round and say, look, I'm not getting backed. You're not putting the money up. I can't get what I want. And he'll get disillusioned and he'll move out. And Big Ian still think, oh well, that's great. Get somebody
No,
else.
I'm not Eddie Howe out. I'm not Eddie Howe out. But when has Eddie Howe not been backed like by PIF? I don't understand that. When is he?
When has he not been back? The last three
Yeah.
windows?
Yeah, because of PSR.
Yes,
PSR
exactly.
issues.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how is that? That's the Premier League's fault. That's not PIF's fault.
No. But what I'm saying is, this time, this window, we have definitely got money to spend this window.
And Eddie Howe is messed up severely multiple different times by identifying players that he can't get.
And by the way, we had money last year. We didn't spend it.
How many? Hang on, whoa, hang on. Identifying players you kind of get, but you don't know until you try. If you see a nice bond at the bar, you're not. It's like selling things at doors. You've got to knock on 5 doors sometimes before you get a yes. It's you don't know until you try.
No, so we had money last year. Eddie Howe, I remember Eddie Howe saying this, and this annoyed me. He said he's never going to sign players that are not as good, that are not better than players he already has.
Correct.
Hence why we didn't sign anybody last year. I'm not trying to. I don't know who to blame. We can blame Paul Mitchell, Eddie Howe. I don't know. Hence why we went for Gay and we didn't.
Elanga last day.
Elanga lost. Elanga was just a blow. I think they did that for the fans. If I had to be quite frank, honest.
We also went for a centre back as well from
the AC Milan one. The AC Milan one. The German boy.
It was Cho, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Mitchell identified him. What was his name? Lacroix?
Aye. Oh, he went to Palace.
Yeah, he went to Lacroix.
Lacroix went to Paris.
And there was Lacroix and Cho, wasn't there?
And Chow said no and stayed at AC Milan.
Tedibo went to West Ham. That was the other one that Mitchell identified.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so Eddie Howe. I don't know what happened then, but I presume that they were happy with what they had. Cool. We got into the Champions League. We can see now that as much as I'm not trying to blame Eddie Howe, but I'm going to be objective. End of the day, it does seem like it's Eddie Howe FC, and he's identified players that we could not attempt to get. And because of that, and because of the small pool of players that we've identified that we can't get, we're now left a week before the season starts with a very, very frail squad and our top asset not wanting to play for us. End of the day, in a business operation, you have to blame the individual that put this in place. I can't give it to PIF because PIF ain't really done much wrong, except for the fact they haven't really got involved as much as they should have. And listen, I still want Eddie Howe to be our manager. I'm still Eddie Howe in, but I'm not going to take any accountability for the mistakes that's led to this.
So
And
Yinks,
if we go 3 games without a win, everybody's team will change, and you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
what category would you have put in Tonali in? Because Tonali was well out of our potential. That was the first signing under the new owners where I went, wow, how have we getting him? Because I'm telling you now, if all the top 6 knew he was available, they would have been in for him. So
Correct.
respectfully so, but
that
it's man
narrative
only.
is going for players that we're never going to play.
Just add a caveat.
Hold on, guys. You're all talking over each
Sure.
other. One at a time, guys.
Just to add a caveat, Tonali was actually sold to us in a very, very deceitful way, whereby there was a betting ban that was going to occur, and we opened our arms up, and then he was out for 10 months. I'm not blaming nobody for that. That happened to anyone, but let's put it into its rightful
No one else
context.
knew that though, did they? So when Man City wouldn't have known that, Chelsea wouldn't have known that.
How do we know?
Spent 400
How do we
million
know?
18 months before that.
But how did we know? I don't know. They may not have. They might not. I don't know. I'm not here to argue that. But I'm just trying to put it into its rightful context. That even though we
Yeah.
did get Tonali, a big player squad, it was sold under false pretense. Again, I'm not trying to say Eddie Howe can't get big players, not at all, because I think he's done a terrific jobs in the play that he's already got. But it's very hard for me to not put the responsibility in his hands where we've went 3 transfer windows without signing anybody, and we've been
Yep.
rejected 10 times.
But we have to. That's why we have to ask the questions. Like, what is the recruitment process? What is the protocol? How do we go and approach players, and what is the timeline, and how do we implement, the recruitment policy? So, do we have a recruitment policy? What is the mechanism? How is it implemented? What's the timeline? So yes, we can identify. So these players we've been rejected in inverted commas. We don't know. Maybe it was because we're so slow. Maybe because we can only work on one deal at one time, and you've got 2 people maybe flying across to Europe trying to seal a deal, and then the other guy's waiting. So we need to know exactly. It's not the identification; it's the implementation and the execution. Why are we not executing effectively? And the thing is,
That's exactly the point I've been trying to make, Omar, which is
it's the execution.
identification of the players is not a problem.
It's the execution.
It's the actual
And
recruitment.
yeah, and the process.
And I
It's the process.
don't believe that none of these players that we've already been linked to hitherto. For example, I think if we'd gone to Brentford for Mbeumo, who was our number 1 first target,
Give 70 million.
if we'd
Yeah, there
said
you
to
go.
them, there's 71 million, which is what Man
We
U,
want him. We want him by next week. That's it. Yeah.
and that's it. But
Could it be?
who made the decision? No, we're not going to get to 70 million.
And we keep low bowling. We keep low bowling, and that really irritates the other. It's a psychology thing. If you're selling a car for
I agree.
£20,000 and somebody comes and says, "I'll offer you 10,000," you're like, "Get lost, mate." And then even if you come back and offer 20,000, you're not gonna sell to that guy. If another guy comes and says, "Look, I'll offer you 19,500," you're more likely to deal with that person.
So going back,
But why do you?
Big Ings was saying before, I don't think the players specifically refusing to come to Newcastle.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
What's
it's not.
happening is they're getting chatted up by me, and then Brad Pitt's coming along and going,
Exactly.
come home with me instead." So it's
Andy, come on, man. You
Yeah,
want
but-
Brad Pitt?
well,
it
Lee
goes
Evans
back-
looking like
like,
they might make them laugh at least, but no,
You have to look at the execution. How are we executing?
It's ultimately they're getting a better offer.
Shell
Yeah.
but that's that. But then why we identify these players that are most likely we're not going to go get? We can't fish in the same pools as Real Madrid. We can't, and now we're seeing that we can't fish in the same pools as Man United. How do we now remove ourselves, completely change the
No.
strategy, and
Yeah.
and fish in a pool that will be able to build a team? Because you know what, for me, the best players and the worst players in the world, there's not much difference between the two. In fact, not like 20 years ago where you have Henry on the left side, and he's running it right against Stephen Carr, and he's destroying him. It's not like that no more. Players are nearly as good as each other. If that's my opinion. No one's 20 times better than another individual. The Messi and Ronaldo period is dead and done. So and today there is a lot of quality players out there that to me that are even better than your Seskos, even better than your Pedros out there that we could easily recruit. I don't know many, I ain't done I haven't sat down and looked and watched, but I've seen us lose to Bournemouth for goodness sake. We've lost to Fulham for goodness sake. You tell
Look,
me there's no players that
yeah.
we can identify there that
What
can
what
improve our
yeah.
squad.
What I would do is I would go and sit down with the Brighton hierarchy and learn from them, because Brighton's been so successful in recruiting unknown players who've become superstars. So what are they doing right, which we are not doing? You can learn from other clubs.
Yeah, yeah.
And what they're doing right is they've got Tony Bloom, who owns one of the biggest betting companies in America, whose primary source of income is Hispanic betting, and they
Right.
bet because his site offer the best odds for South American football matches, and in order to enable him to offer the best odds, he's got one fantastic scouting team in South America who are watching every game every week so that they can make sure that the odds that they are offering brings them all the betting in.
Also, if they have a transfer that feels it doesn't cost them Champions League football.
Yeah,
True.
that's true.
True.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Peter Shields has thrown a question in here. If Sesko chooses Manchester United, we should try to get Strand Larson from Wolves. Hokey has just signed for them for 23 million. Tempt them with 60 mil, and I think we'll get him. Then buy Wissa.
Get him, they'll drive him up as well.
I'm going to say, for 60 mil. I mean, there's a part of Strand Larson's game that I like,
Yeah.
but is he a difference player?
No.
He's not.
don't
He's not going to
think-
make a difference. Yeah.
No, you see, I think that's what I said. With the names that Eddie Howe's been looking at, they're all difference players. And unfortunately, different clubs also want different players, or difference players,
Yeah.
I should say. David
Yeah.
Smith has put in one here. NUFC had a 5-year strategy, but a change in PSR rules because of takeover stopped that. If I was PIF, I'd stop being nice. Do a Chelsea, sell our training ground, women's team, and get the cash in for any means.
By the way, strategies are dynamic. They're not static. So you have to go and external factors which might affect your strategy. You have to modify your strategy. So you can't just have like, we had a 5-year strategy, PSR came in, and that's it. We can't do anything. You have to modify it, and So I think again it comes down to leadership and the structure, the governance structure, which is absent in the club. Thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, good. Bravo Mount 1982 predictions. What's your percentage for Sesko going to United or going to Newcastle? I think 80% is going to United, and give 20% he comes to us. Well, the first thing I want to say, Bravo,
you
there's
look at
only
the
one
odds-
United, according to Win. What do you think, percentage-wise?
If you look at the odds, we keep on flip-flopping. The favourite is
Absolutely.
flip-flopping. We've been from 8-1 to 7-2 on, back to 8-1. Depends what time of the day it is and what Romano decides.
Irish Assassin has gone in with a question. If Isak stays, do you think the fans will get behind him if he apologises and signs a
Yes.
new deal?
Yes.
As a fan,
Yes.
I don't want to see a player being booed in a black and white shirt. Totally
Me
agree with
neither.
that.
Yeah.
And I've said, at the end of the day, he has to swallow a little bit of humble pie. And he has to come with cap in hand. He's got to show, for all the disloyal side of it that's
He
been
has
shown
to show
now,
remorse big
he has to
style.
show a little bit of remorse. Yeah, absolutely.
Teammates as well, more than
And listen,
yeah.
he's met his teammates today. Apparently, there was Bruno was at the training ground, and a couple of others, and apparently they've had a conversation. Now, like I say, nobody will know what's privy to that conversation. It'll be about the leadership group. It'll be about those getting around him and showing him that moral support to say, listen, we'll back you 100%. And like I said on Monday's show, Anthony Gordon had a similar situation when he was touted to go to Liverpool by us, saying we need to bring money in. Anthony Gordon's available if you want him for the right price. Anthony Gordon thought, because all of his name was arranged, his fitness and everything else. So he had that mindset that he was going anyway, because Newcastle had touted him to go. It wasn't him asking to go.
Correct.
He still come back to the training ground and did his best, but you could see the psychological effect it had on him because his performances weren't there.
Yeah,
What we've
yeah.
got to do now, we've got to get all of these guys, Dr. Almar's, around Isak and get his mindset back to where it should be.
But by the way,
Gary,
if
no.
anybody does have if I can, I'm happy to speak to him, because I think the issue is I think there is a psychological issue underlying a lot of his behavior. There is.
Gary, I think Gordon down tools like during the beginning of that season until he got his contract, and I'll
Yeah,
never
yeah,
forgive
I
him for
agree
that.
with
He down. I hate players that down tool. Hence why I wouldn't want to take Isak back, because if he went
Really, you
about
wouldn't take him. You would sell him.
if he down tools, I'd like get rid of him, because right now I'd rather have someone that's gonna put their heart into the game than a half-hearted individual.
So you'd rather have Asula leading the line, and where will that get us?
Then what? Then an Isak that's down tool that doesn't even want to wear his shin pads. I'll take Usula all day, because
Yeah,
at the end
yeah,
of the day,
but big Inks, these are professional players. After a couple of
Yeah.
weeks, you can't just down tools for the whole season. It's
I've
a
seen
World Cup
basketball
year.
players. I've seen basketball players down tool until they get sold.
I might be
So
blindly
Really?
and because
optimistic.
of the amount of money that
Yes,
they make,
yes.
they're gonna get their money weekly anyway, so they don't need to worry. So he could down tool for the rest of the season and still get a big move.
But he's one of the best players in the world. He would want to perform, irrespective
I
of the
hope so.
situation.
Cup as
I
well.
hope so. I don't trust him.
Psychologically, I'm talking psychologically. This is what will happen.
Okay.
He doesn't want to destroy his career, because football is a short career.
And
Say
World
he
Cup.
down tools, yeah, and then exactly, World Cup, and next year say his form goes out the window. He's not going to be playing the World Cup.
Who's going to be if he hasn't performed this upcoming season? Who's going to want to pay big money, big bucks, £300,000 a week next season?
Saudi have been paying players. You could get a Saudi move. I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
I'm going to show this, even though I don't want to. But you've said the super chat, Chandler Turner, Newcastle, just Sunderland with Saudi. Only
Well-
one United. And you're absolutely right. And it's the Northeast.
We're also forgetting he hasn't trained with Anthony Alanga yet. He might get in training with him and Gordon up top and go, hang on a second, yeah, there's a bit of a change in gear here. I like the look of this. I mean, I'm being blindly optimistic, but I'm sure having someone next to him with that amount of pace and that amount of movement is only going to help Isak.
Hopefully.
Just got to
Right
work with things. You know, look, no disrespect to Murphy, but let's be honest, Isak thrives on the space created by others.
So, guys, listen, we've had a cracking show. Just while I've got Dr. Omar with me, I want to thank everybody that's been in the chat and the viewers out there. If you could smash the likes, but I'm going to end the show with just a couple of questions, and these are, I suppose, towards the professional, talking about Isak. Looking at Isak's current situation. How might prolonged transfer speculation and public valuation, i.e. the 150 million price tag, affect players' self-concept and intrinsic motivation?
Excellent question. I think it does affect people because they don't live in vacuums. They listen to the media. They're on social media. His agents in his ear saying you're the best thing since sliced bread. So, he's obviously, he already has an ego. These elite players already have egos. So this is where being grounded by your manager, by your teammates, because it's a team game at the end of the day. Even Cristiano Ronaldo, he can't perform by himself. He needs a team. So it's about sitting him down and just giving him the realistic objectives. It's being very matter of fact rather than feeding into the ego. And you'd be surprised how these players actually you can rationalize with them. And it's about separating. For example, if you have people, you get influenced by your surroundings, right? So if he's 24 hours a day with his agent telling him, you're the best thing since sliced bread, he's going to believe in his own hype. But if you have someone like Eddie Howe, or you have the medical team, or his teammates like Bruno, like, listen, mate, you're nothing without us. Yes, you're the best striker in the world, but we need to work as a team. So those kind of conversations can help bring people back down to earth.
Brilliant. I think that happens tomorrow, doesn't it? Because I think they're all back in training tomorrow.
Tomorrow is crucial.
Yeah,
What Eddie Howe says to him is crucial.
So just going on what you've just said there about Isak. So what strategies can an athlete like Isak employ to manage stress and maintain performance when training separately from his team during negotiations?
So I think it's about having a relaxed training. So because they train very intensely, right? So the thing is, it's about having well-being outside of football. So having hobbies where you can engage, for example, with your family, maybe But it's very difficult for these elite sportsmen because they can't go to the local Tesco's without getting hounded out, especially now. So I think that's why going to Spain actually was a good idea from my perspective, taking himself out. The way he did it, well, I don't agree with, because he didn't get approval as we
know,
heard
yeah.
from Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
But actually being out of the limelight, can you imagine him training in Newcastle? The media would be there hounding him. The Liverpool fans would be there, so he'd be negatively influenced. So I think having a life outside of football is very important. Having a family life and having a life where people bring you back down to earth. That's why parents are really important. So when you're profiling young players, you need to really understand the motives of parents. Some parents just think of their kids as transactional. They're going to make me a millionaire. Other parents are much more thinking about the well-being of their child. Yes, they want them to be successful, but they want them to be well-rounded individuals, not just money-making machines. So for Isak, I think somebody like Eddie Howe is a perfect manager, where he can, because Eddie Howe is compassionate. He's not just like, for example, Mourinho. I can just imagine Mourinho booting him out of the ground and saying you can't come
Absolutely.
back.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
sometimes works.
Yeah,
but
the kick
it
up the
doesn't work.
backside. Yeah, absolutely. Some
Sometimes it
people
doesn't
like
work.
the hard ball, don't they?
Yeah. But
Right.
I think the best way is having a nuanced approach, having a carrot and stick approach.
Brilliant. So final question, because like I say, we've been going for 2 hours and I know it's late over where you are. So what type of, again, I'm talking about Isak and how he can support himself. Which cognitive techniques like reframing, visualization are most effective for maintaining focus under the certainty of a high profile transfer saga?
Yeah, so something called mindfulness is very effective for elite athletes now. So mindfulness is basically taking yourself away from the high-profile situations and just it's a meditation based, where you just be mindful of your breathing in a particular environment, or mindful of whichever environment you're in. For example, if you go to the beach, just kind of like switching off and thinking about the present moment and not focusing. Because the thing is, these kind of elite players, they have a lot of stress, right? They have a lot of stress in terms of performance anxiety. So switching off is very, very important. And fans don't realize the pressure that they put on themselves, right? So Isak is probably his own worst critical critic. So fans are critical of players, but they're also critical of themselves, especially at this level. So kind of switching off in terms of mindfulness, in terms of meditation, in terms of cognitive reframing, so they don't believe in their own hype. And having people outside of football is very important. So because the thing is, within football there's egos. Having people outside of football that can ground you is very, very important.
Brilliant. And literally, you've just said that, because he's took himself away from the heat, if you like, by going to Spain, even though it was done rather underhandedly. But, I understand why he's done it. Because, like I say, we all know and we've all seen via social media what was put on the fence. And I suppose that is just self-protection, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, I think the club also could have done some things better as well. Like I said, I don't think he should have been left by himself in isolation, because then he's more likely to be influenced by negative forces, by the media. Can you imagine? I'm sure Liverpool were calling him up daily, saying, "Look, you need to escalate your poor conduct to get a move away." Whereas if he was within the group, that influence from outside is limited.
Yeah. And I suppose what doesn't help is your agent being seen at the Liverpool game.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
That's all. Yeah. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was lighting another fire, wasn't he?
Because it's conflict of interest, Gary. He wants to make money, right? How much is he going to make from Isak going to Liverpool?
From Isak, Well, if you have a look at the pool of players that this lad has, Isak is the line. He's the one that's going to bring quite a decent wage for him.
And this is why when you recruit players, you need to know the people around them. What's their group like? What's their agents like? There are some good agents, actually. They're driven by money, but some are more driven by money than others. So it's about
Well, it's very interesting to see what a lot of these.
As Wolsey's saying, so what you're saying is Isak needs to get laid.
He's right about him going to Spain, though. Can you only? We've seen the pictures with him and his dog local. Imagine if a load of kids had seen him and mobbed him.
Exactly.
Seen him chasing his car outside the training grounds.
He would have been hounded out.
It wasn't right,
but that wasn't even him.
No, I'm saying that tells you everything.
But it would have been him, wouldn't it, at the time? I think you're right. I think he's done absolutely right for self-preservation.
No, but what I'm saying is the Liverpool fans have been posting that all over social media.
2 years old.
Him.
It wasn't.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but that's the fear of
That could have
social
happened.
media.
That could have happened. Yeah, that
yeah.
could have happened.
But
Yeah.
and to be fair, all that's done is reignited a lot more fire because people believe it. And that's the problem. People actually believe what's being put out there. That was Isak in that car, and it wasn't. It was Tino. But I mean, these are the situation and the current findings. Listen, guys, I want to thank you so much, especially Dr. Almar, for coming on board and giving us a professional look into the life of a footballer, the psychological effect it takes on the fans as well, because we all suffer as one,
Yeah.
and we are all together. We're all united when it comes to feeling great, and we're all united when we come to feeling really bad.
And we are 21 likes short of 300.
You
So
should put a
come
link
on.
at the bottom saying, how is the Isak situation affecting you?
635
Call Dr.
watching.
Omar.
Hold on.
Smash the likes.
Sorry, what was that,
Sorry,
Andy?
Andy.
Saying we should put a little thing at the bottom. Is the Isak situation affecting you? Call Dr. Omar now.
Yeah, listen, like I say,
You get a minute with him, he'd be a millionaire in 5 minutes.
I'm going to say, yeah, it's probably the best advertising we could have given him. I want to thank the mighty win, as always, Andy Bell, Big Yinks, again, and Dr. Almar for a great insight into the mindset of footballers. Thank you, everybody, for giving us a great show, and everybody in Viewerland, some great questions. Also, want to thank Dylan Richardson. Who else was in there? Chandler Turner, Bernard Burrows, Queenie, Irish Assassin, the Chris the American Mag, Romrick, the Irish Assassin, Andrew Rogers, Sean Helzusar, Big Tank 9401, and Geordie Rev for becoming a member. Thank you so much for everybody watching. We're back on at 2:15 tomorrow with a look to have a look at where it all went wrong for Newcastle. Behind the scenes look at our opinion of potentially where it all fails and where Mitchell said it isn't fit for purpose. But until then, it's a goodbye from everybody down and over there.
And there.
And there, yeah, and it's what is
Away
it?
the lads.
Lasses and Bairns. Until tomorrow, thanks
Hit the
everybody.
likes, folks. 3 short of
Not let it
300.
get you.
Three more likes.
Come on,
On
three
the
more.
way out, come on, you can do it. Do it for us. Do it for the love of the club. Take care, everybody.
3 more, and then I'll change the medication for the mighty win.
You'll need more than medication. Anyway.
Not enough tablets on the
299.
planet. Man.